It's the trans inquisition. In a way, it actually is. I could go back to the Salem witch trials, or at least the cultural concept of witch trials, for an example. We could go back to like the McCarthy era or the Red Scare. There are a ton of places we can go with this. The fundamental here is a moral panic, okay? We're dealing with like another satanic panic in America right now, where with the Balenciaga stuff in particular, there are a bunch of people who are like freaking out, like, here's an image of an adult standing next to a child, Satan, Epstein, Satan, 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 so on and so forth. We get a lot of this, you know. Yeah, did anyone here see the recent not trans panic, moral panic, some more news from Cody? Yeah, some more news. Yeah, did anyone see that? It's a good bit, you know? If you can stomach the comedic stylings of Cody, which, you know, your mileage there is going to vary a little bit, but it is a great video. He makes great videos. The idea basically is that a moral panic on the most fundamental level is when a large portion of society is riled up into a hysteria over an evil within that they perceive to represent a fundamental moral threat to the fabric of society, and that they need to weed out. One of the things that defines a moral panic is its participatory nature. It's not enough to believe there are problems in society. Everyone has to get on board with rooting them out, right? Like, the McCarthy era wasn't just McCarthy saying that he had the names of communists working in government, lying about it and getting humiliated publicly. Also, he said he had the names of homosexuals in government, in case you were wondering if there was more of a parallel to like the queer, you know, modern queer zeitgeist. It was also like every guy on the street, like regular citizens, were doing everything, like they were keeping an eye out for communists, you know? You know the term pinko? You've probably heard that used in like retro, like 1950s Fallout-esque kind of. The term pinko meant like liberal who was sympathetic to communism, right? Because the commies were red, so the sympathetic types were pink. You see? Like, the idea was like, it wasn't enough whether or not you were a commie. Being a pinko was enough. It meant you were sympathetic. A moral panic is defined by this kind of group hysteria. They did the same thing with the Jews in Nazi Germany, of course, where it went beyond like, you know, you know how nowadays when you see Nazis online, they're calling literally everyone Jewish based on like insane head math, where even the slightest relationship to a person they perceive to being coded Jewish means that they're themselves Jewish. That's not a new thing. Under Nazi rule, you know, being Jewish did not begin and end with being ethnically or religiously Jewish. You could also be culturally or politically Jewish, which you're never going to guess. They call a lot of people culturally or politically Jewish. You know, cultural Bolshevism was like the insipid, insidious creep of communist, which they consider Jewish, ideology into German life. That's the modern cultural Marxism theory. The whole idea, it's rooted in the paranoia. That's the point. Now, bringing all of that back, right? Like, what are we actually, like, what's the relationship here? Well, the relationship is that randomly accusing public, powerful people of being trans isn't just about making them repulsive in the eyes of conservatives. It's about instilling paranoia in those conservatives to do the same themselves. Do you understand? See, the moral panic relies not just on centrally controlled and disseminated public callouts. They need everyone on board with this. And the idea of like a subversive conspiracy to trans our children and queerify our society, thereby destroying Western culture, all of that works a lot better when your average conservative is suspiciously keeping an eye out for the people around them to see which of them are secretly trans. The conspiratorial element functions best if you have literal operatives. It's not just enough for there to be ideological operatives, because people are generally pretty forthcoming about being like liberal or pro-trans, if they are. You need like secretive operatives. You need people who warrant that level of paranoia and suspicion. And so you have the transvestigation panic. Generally something partaken in deranged British TERFs who like will go to the supermarket and get like a bottle of water and then write up like a 4,000 word blog post on how the every single like worker who interacted with them is secretly trans based on their hip to waist ratio. That's one side of things. But broadly, I think there's a real political threat here. There's a real political. Where do you think that saying, "We can always tell," leads to? Right? Like, we can always tell. On one hand, it's, you'll never pass, which we know that plenty of trans people pass. These fucks can't always tell. But doesn't it seem like it's instilling in these people a kind of confidence in the ability to root people out in hiding? Right? Like, doesn't that seem like the point a little bit? We can always tell. We are investigators. We can see through your deception. We're ready. We're not going to be fooled by you. Not just you, an actual trans person, but by any of you people, up to and including, say, for example, possibly cisgender people, who they want to incite a kind of like mob disgust against. Everyone get where I'm getting at here? That's the point. That's the point that I'm getting at. That's the Brittany Griner thing. That was the Michelle Obama thing in like a proto stage. That was back before like the trans panic had ever like even really kicked off, in its modern form. Yeah, we can always tell is a statement of intent, not fact. Exactly, Kanye. Perfect way of saying it. Yeah, we can always tell isn't an assessment of the world as it is now. It's a statement of like we will build a world where you people are rooted out. Whatever it takes. You people being a very, very broad categorization in this case. Moral panics, pretty dangerous stuff. And don't underestimate them either. These satanic panic tendencies may seem laughable from the outside, but unfortunately they're actually quite dangerous. So let's keep an eye out on that. Example? Yeah, like how they have, like, remember that bill from, I think, Florida, where at any time a student athlete can be forced out of their athletics if a parent makes the accusation that they're trans, and then they have to be subjected to a medical examination to prove they're cisgender. Was that Florida? Sounds like it was from Florida. That seems Floridian in nature. Oh, that's Ohio? Okay. Yes, the Penis Inspection Day bill. There are a couple of Penis Inspection Day bills now. Soon, American children will grow up imagining Penis Inspection Day as a normal, everyday part of their lives. Ah, yes. Fantastic. Utah schools secretly investigated if winning female student athlete is transgender. An athletics association scrutinized the winner's records after parents of two girls who lost the competition complained. This is going to be happening all the time everywhere now. Anytime a female athlete does well, secret investigation, or public, to determine, the child's genitalia, I guess. It's always sore loser-ass parents too. Oh yeah, they're like the bane of society, for sure. The girl's high school determined she was female after pouring through her records since kindergarten. Not to get too intersectional with you guys, but this also means that for younger people who have more sparse records, maybe they have parents who weren't able to afford to get them like consistent medical care. Immigrants, children of immigrants, aren't going to have as clean of a paper record of their medical history and will therefore be more vulnerable to accusations of being trans because they spiked volleyball really good that one time or something. Yes, Florida's new transgender sports ban permits schools to require genital inspections of children. Just a classic stuff. But it is a world of terror and scrutiny. Finally, we have a moral panic united with the social and technological apparatuses of a surveillance state. A brave new world we're entering.